if business is about relationships, what's at the core of a relationship? It's trust. Well, how do you collapse the time frames to get to that level of trust to get the consumer to do business with you? Well, you establish values that you both can agree on so that the values are what's guiding the transaction. So it becomes transactional based on the values in order for it to become relational so that you have a sustained business model. And that's what we've tried to do with all our businesses. I mean, right now, we have 47 locations. You walk into any of them and you look at the on the wall behind the cash register, you're going to say the 3 R's of doing what's right.
Hey, welcome listeners. Today, I have the distinct honor and privilege of having a super entrepreneur on the show and really a great friend, someone I've known for 15 or 20 years, Tony Creed. He's the CEO and founder of Arco Enterprises, and he's had a number of businesses, a really interesting career, and I say super entrepreneur because he's had businesses in many different industries, all kinds of experience and a ton of education. And what an opportunity to learn today and just have some fun talking to somebody who's not only done it, but is doing it today and is just in the fight on the front line. So Tony, welcome to the show today, man.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this a lot. So before we get into ultimately where we're going to go talking about franchising and the franchise model and some of the really cool things you've done with that and how you help people there, let's talk a little bit about your background and kind of your story, because you've had a very distinguished career. I mean, starting in the Navy as a naval officer and that whole process. Give us the 30,000 foot view and how you got where you are today.
Well, believe it or not, the Navy is where I got the idea that business is where I should be. I was fortunate enough to be the flag secretary to Admiral Vern Clark, who went on to be the CNO. I worked with him at the fleet. We had 130,000 sailors under our command and, $1 trillion worth of assets. But he had his MBA, but he decided that the taxpayers should get an ROI for their investment. He said that whether it's public or private, that business is business, and things that to create an ROI, then they should have a business model attached to them. And that's actually how he became the CNO, is that they wanted to change direction and to show value for what they had. So that really got me sparked and everything. So the day I stepped out of the Navy, I had already had a letter of intent and all the paperwork ready, and I started my first franchise, which was in real estate. And so I didn't even take a week off. I didn't take a day off. I took my uniform off, put a suit on, and I'm off and running. And then from that, I decided that the way to scale your business is really to be able to provide the consumer as many of the supplemental things that come with that business. So that's when although we owned a franchise, we set other companies. That was real estate. So we set the title company up. We bought a mortgage bank, et cetera. So all the ancillary services around that. And so then from that, I bought my second franchise, again, in the real estate industry. And then the big crash was happening. But before that, I had an opportunity to take that franchise, which was with a smaller franchisor, and to try to implement the concept in Ukraine, of all places. And so the reason I went there to consult is to see if we could do master franchising with the largest bank in Ukraine, which is actually a BNP bank called Ukrsib Bank. And that really was an opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone. Foreign country, didn't speak the language. I went there to consult. They ended up hiring me as CEO of the company. And, 6 weeks later, in 9 bags, me and April were taking off to Ukraine, thinking that we're going to change the world. The only thing that changed was us, so it was a great experience. But that really taught me that I knew nothing. and about many things, about business, about the world, et cetera, et cetera. And I think the lesson there is you've got to get out of your comfort zone to
Wow.
grow, you
So,
know?
so I'm going to interrupt there for a minute
Yeah,
because we knew each other then,
yeah,
and when you dropped that little bombshell that you're going to Ukraine, because you had a super successful company, and you're like, okay, I've got this opportunity, and we were all like, what in the world is Tony? What are Tony and April doing? Going to Ukraine, and some of the stories that you told in terms of having to have bodyguards and the way that they would move you around the city, and how expensive it was even back then, compared to here in the States. And I think the other thing that struck me was how you were creating this entire business in a country that didn't. It was totally different from the United States, where we're all used to sort of rule of law and title and respecting sort of process and systems. But there it was just kind of like the wild wild west, right?
yeah. It was a wild, wild west. And I think that what the lesson there was is that although those things existed that you just mentioned, the important thing is that we were dealing in business, which human beings are attached to business. You have to have a value base first of yourself and then of your business. Your business has to have a DNA of values. And what we introduced there is that people did not trust the banks, they didn't trust the real estate. And when we found that out, I'm like, well, if business is about relationships, what's at the core of a relationship? It's trust. Well, how do you collapse the time frames to get to that level of trust to get the consumer to do business with you? Well, you establish values that you both can agree on so that the values are what's guiding the transaction. So it becomes transactional based on the values in order for it to become relational so that you have a sustained business model. And that's what we've tried to do with all our businesses. I mean, right now, we have 47 locations. You walk into any of them and you look at the on the wall behind the cash register, you're going to say the 3 R's of doing what's right. Reciprocity, treat others the way you want to be treated. Respect all people, all things, all the time. And responsibility, freedom with responsibility. Who much is given, much is expected. And so that's the way we treat the customers. That's the way we treat employees. That's the way the employees treat the leadership. And so it all gives us the same playing field so that we can build that trust and have a relationship.
Do you think that was something that you went into Ukraine as your laboratory knowing, or is that, consciously focused on, or was it something that you landed there, you're in the midst of this, and with all of your training experience, you started to realize, okay, yeah, these values things, this is really important. And because we talk a lot about values in business, right? There's a lot of lip service given to values and mission and all that. I think every MBA program you take starts with that whole class, right?
Right? Yeah,
But you learned there, it seems that through immersion, that it's critical.
it is. And the thing about it is, I think we take it for granted in the West because there's more of a trust factor, if you will. And in my readings, I read Stephen M.R. Covey's book, The Speed of Trust. And one of the things that in that book it talks about is the bureaucracy attached to developing countries that don't have as much trust. So they have to put all this bureaucracy in place to protect people or try to protect people. But we just take it for granted here. So when we use the word values, what does it really mean? There, and matter of fact, values didn't translate in Russian. I was on the eastern side in Kiev, so it was all Russian language, and it was principles. That's what it translated to.
Interesting. So they didn't have a word for that. So okay, so fast forward. So you had this immersive experience in the Ukraine. Another foundational, maybe another pillar in your foundation of growth and success over the years. Then coming out of there, what did you do? What was your next step?
Well, so I had a management team, and so the first thing I realized is that I needed more education. And the more you learn, the less you know. So you chase education for knowledge, only to find out that you have none. And so it's almost a paradox,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Like
educational
every
paradox.
25-year-old out of there that just came out of college thinks they know everything, right?
Right. They know nothing. So, I had these questions more than I was looking for answers. So I
Mm,
went and got more education, but I had a management team. And, 2008 is, we all remember that. I was in real estate. Luckily, we were in the Virginia Beach market and we didn't get hit as hard. But I was really about 4 months from losing everything.
mm,
And so we had to restructure. I had to get some abatement. I restructured leases, et cetera, et cetera. And we survived that. And I ended up selling the company in 2011. And it's still thriving today. Matter of fact,
mm.
I think it's in the top 10 real estate companies in the Tidewater area. So was really proud of the team, not of myself, but of the management team that took that over and ran with it and really made something of it. And for them to watch them grow, it's been very, very rewarding. Even though that I wasn't the owner, I still keep up with them today. And so that's what our legacy has to be: is that what we do for others, not what we do for self. And I think that's true in business as well.
Wow. Okay. So very, 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 I mean, that's, we talk a lot about legacy. We talk about, as a business owner, a lot of business owners they go into business because they want to create wealth, and they want to buy their freedom back, and they want ultimately some influence. But at the end of the day, the stakes only get so good, right?
Mhm.
So you only have so many numbers in your bank account, and and then there's the end, right? So what are you doing at the end of the day? And we look back, right, on if you give your eulogy, right, what have I left in my wake? Is it positive? Is it good? Is it a mark? Is it Many business owners are searching for that once they get to that point where they've got this, you know, successful enterprise now, and that money's not an issue. We're not going to worry about that. Um, and that sounds like what you were in pursuing.
Yeah, and that's kind of our business today. Is that, and kind of let me tell you this, that um, when I set this company up, and my whole goal was to have a company that we could help people. And you start out with your employees first.
Hmm.
And I have a saying that when you make it about others, it becomes about self. And so we pursued. Matter of fact, this was pre-COVID. We started pursuing we bought the Las Vegas market for Smart Style, which is the um, hair salons in Walmart. And so that was 11. And so when we set the company up, I said, okay, there's things that we're going to do that are not traditional. Number one, offer full benefits package. Uh, Pay more than what the market is paying. And so, we have a business. If you're a full-time employee with us, we're paying 66% of your health care. We give you free life insurance. And let me tell you, last year I had two salon leaders, and that's what we call our managers, one in Tucson and one in Las Vegas. They're in their 40s that passed away, one from
Wow.
cancer, one from a heart attack. And
Wow.
so, you think when you're doing this, it's like, hey, we probably never use this. It'll probably be
Right.
a waste of money. Well, you hope it
Right.
is a waste of money.
Right. 2 out of
But
11, Tony.
I'm
Gosh, man,
telling
I'm
you,
glad I'm on the other side of the coast from you.
yeah. Well, actually, this was at that time was about 40 something that
Okay.
we
Okay.
owned, but
Still not good
still
odds.
not good odds. Still not good
No.
odds.
That's like being a
So,
friend of the Clintons.
yeah, really. So anyway,
Yeah.
and we even have a matching 401k
Yeah.
because that's something that this industry doesn't have. And so people are like, well, why do you do that? And two, when I was competing I buy markets, so that's how we have 47 locations. Now
Mm.
I've bought 51. I've closed several of those. But when I have competed with other franchisees for markets, like the Tucson market, is multiple people wanted that market. It was a good
Mm.
market. The brand is strong down there. It's a different brand. It's Cost Cutters, and the reason the franchisor awarded it to us is because how well we take care of our people.
Mm.
And I think our legacy should be, if you say, and I think the eulogy thing's good. And I think everybody don't make New Year's resolutions. Give yourself a eulogy every year. But
Yeah.
more importantly about that, as you're giving your own eulogy, look into the audience and ask the question: who's there this year that wasn't there last year, and who's not here this year that was there last year. And that can be really telling to relationships and how you're doing business as well.
Mm.
So, that I went and got some education. I went back, I got my MBA. I thought that was important. I went to get my DBA, and I did some other jobs while I was doing the DBA. I wanted to explore some things, and I'm having dinner at Ken Blanchard's house, and he's talking about he was mentoring. I think it was his Department of Commerce secretary, and he's like, well, if somebody could just fix the government. So I was like, let me see what I can do. So I tried to do some of that into my dissertation. It didn't work. So, but at the same time, I was trying to give back to, that's why I went to VA. I'm a disabled veteran. I said, they've got some issues. Let me go try to help. And so, I think that what we learn from those things is that we try to help others, but really what we're doing is we're working on ourselves. And that's really what you should do every day. Because, back to the values thing, is the lesson learned there was that I really had to look at myself first and create this hierarchy of values. And what it starts with is your character, and your character is how you behave when no one's looking. Your values are how you behave when people are looking. And your ethics are how you behave relative to the law that you're subjected to. And so that's something that you kind of have to start with the character in order to make those, because if you get the character right, those things just kind of work out for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But character is forged a lot of times in fire, right?
Correct. And
I mean,
trust me,
unless
if
you
you're
get
in
these
business,
experiences.
you've got fire.
You get fire all the time, right? If you're
guaranteed. Yesterday was one of those fire days. Everything goes wrong. It's like you get a lawsuit in the morning, and then by 10 o'clock you've got an EEO, and then by noon you've got disgruntlements and with landlords, and by 2 you're like, well, I'm terminating the lease. I'm not going to renew the lease.
You're like, and I just want to help people.
I just want to help people. And the thing about it is we get so wrapped up in the things of those things that sometimes the people are neglected. And one of the things that I had the president of Regis out spent a couple of days with me last week, him and the senior vice president for Smart Style, and we did some visits and stuff. And they write. We walk into a place, everybody knows us. We know them. We get hugs and everything. And I'm telling stories about this. And I have to try to know the 200 people that work for us and know something about them. Yeah. And, when you say, what is your job? My job is I fold towels and sweep floors. And that's part of that servant leadership that you got to go show them that, hey, I'm in this with you guys. My job is make sure you get paid, that your life is better than the way I found you, and that, it's a good relationship, a good experience.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned servant leadership. We don't hear that a lot today, in the world. And there's a lot of problems, obviously, that we're dealing with politically, and there's a lot of strife today, and for a litany of reasons. But this whole idea of, you keep talking about people and relationships and serving and folding the towel. So talk about, what is, in your opinion, what is servant leadership, and why is it so important?
Well, servant leadership is, and matter of fact, I mentioned Ken Blanchard. I did my EMBA with Ken Blanchard. And you would appreciate this, Paul. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I was supposed to do the EMBA at Virginia Tech. They had the campus there in Tidewater.
Yeah. So
I was going to do that. And so I went to the counselor and said, hey, I found this program with Ken Blanchard at GCU. Like, what's GCU? American University. He's like, I don't know what that is. I was like, I don't care. I know what Ken Blanchard is. I had, Ken Blanchard got me through Ukraine. I read that because he's a guru of servant leadership. But the thing about it is that you have to be willing to serve others. And there's only 2 types of leaders: those who are willing to serve others, and those who are self-serving. And I'm telling you, when you're self-serving, you can get on an island really quick. That our whole purpose of being in business, just like the franchising. Did you know that franchises employ 8.5 million people?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And $827 billion a year that they put into the economic engine. So, whether you're a mom and pop or whether you're a franchise, whether you're multi-unit or whatever, we have to get up every morning and ask ourselves, what does my boss want?
Hmm.
My boss or my employees? So to make
Mm-hmm.
that engine work, you have to serve your boss. You have to serve your employees, because really the servant leadership model is an inverted pyramid. And if
Right.
you look at it, the customer walks in the door. They have
Who's
the
really the
money.
boss, right?
That's the boss. But who are they confronting? Do you think I have 47 locations in 3 states, 3 different brands? Do you think I'm at any one taking money?
No.
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 So the employee is your frontline employees are the most important people. And, unfortunately, it's like I say at McDonald's, the people who get paid the less are the most important people. Or you have an office, your receptionist, probably the lowest paid person in the law office, but probably the most important, because guess
Yeah.
that is the face of the company. So the person that pays the bills walks in the door, and they're interacting with the frontline employees. And that's really who we have to serve.
Hmm.
Because if you want those values, if you want that DNA to be shared, and you want those customers to come back, then that's what you've got to focus on. You've got to make sure they've got the right environment. They're psychologically safe. They're physically safe. They're getting paid. They're getting paid on time. They're getting paid right, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why it's so important that you have the mindset of a servant leadership.
And so it's not. So I mean, back to values and sort of your operating system of how your DNA of how you run business and how you run your life is this idea. You can't fake that, right? I mean, you can't sort of put lipstick on a pig, as they say. I mean, you have to really live it and embrace it, or your employees are going to figure you out, right?
100%. They know before you do sometimes.
Yeah,
And let me tell you, Paul, I am not perfect. I get it wrong sometimes.
sure,
I have
sure.
had to go to people and say, I really messed that up. I hope you forgive me. We're going to get this. We're going to get this right. Okay.
Well, you've always been like that. I know that, and I think to me, it seems like that might be one of the, if not the one of the top marks of a strong, solid character, is that if you can humble yourself to somebody else and say, "Hey, I think I screwed this up," regardless of the rank, it could be the receptionist, as you said. It could be anybody, because people are valuable outside of their job role as people, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we're no better than anyone.
No. It's, and two, if money is the measurement, what happens if you go broke?
Right. Yeah. Which many super successful people have gone bankrupt, multiple times in their life, and we've all been through the ups and downs. You talked about 2008. We were there. It was a rough ride for us and for a lot of people. And
Mm-hmm.
what do? You get back up and you move on. But you can't. It can't be. You're right. The determining the measurement of your worth. It can't be your money or your accomplishments or anything like that. It's that who created you. And do you think that? And then I want to switch gears and get into franchises. Do you think that that actually by serving others as a servant leader, that actually just builds your own value to yourself and your own self-worth, because you're now just giving to others?
Well, when I was in the Navy, my as I call it, my rewards of leadership was when people that were under my command, that they were promoted.
Mm.
That especially the big promotions, promoted to chief or was commissioned as an officer, et cetera. And
Yeah.
so now the rewards I get of leadership is that we have this person, they were brand new 2 years ago. They've now become an assistant salon leader. They've gone through the leadership training. They're doing great. They're leading others. They're training others. And that's what you work for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't work for the money, because I have to be honest with you. You know, we're a C corp. I'm a W-2 employee like everybody else. I'm subjected to the employee handbook like everybody else is. So, you know,
Well, you have to be, right? Because if you're not, then obviously you have two rule books, and that never goes over well in the end.
well,
Um,
two, if you want to measure where you are in the organization, measure the line of where you get paid. I get paid last.
yeah,
I eat last. You know,
yeah, right.
everybody gets to go through the buffet first. Make sure that they're fed so that they can go out there and greet those customers, and that
Right.
they're, you know, with me, I have to be paid last. I have to be fed last. Everybody
Yeah,
else has got to be taken care of first.
yeah. You empower them, servant leader.
Mm-hmm.
So switching gears, let's talk about franchising. You've got such a wealth of experience from your first business right out of the Navy to now. You've got multiple territories and concepts and things like that. And I know that you're also a franchise consultant. So we have a lot of people that either own a business and they want to expand. Maybe they buy a competitor, or maybe they want to buy a separate business or a related business like you did early on that maybe will complement their business. And maybe there's a franchise model out there for that. Or perhaps someone's listening that's exiting a career in the military or corporate America or something, and they're like, hey, I want to be a business owner, but I don't know where to start. Franchising seems like a great idea. Bring us up to speed on what is that all about, and then really what's the value of a franchise consultant, and how does that help that person make informed decisions?
Yeah, great question. You know, 80% of franchises are local or regional brands. I don't know if people even realize that or not. Um, and the thing about it is that there are some true entrepreneurs that they just like, hey, I'm not going to pay a royalty or whatever. With me, I think that you can be an entrepreneur and you can leverage a franchise concept to grow because, you know, in our business, you need scale of economy. And that's when you start really making, you know, it worth your while. You can't one or two. And the thing about it is that if you are doing a small business, then you are probably the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CTO, et cetera, and the frontline supervisor and the warehouse manager
And the guy folding the towels.
and the guy folding the towels every day,
Right.
not just on visits.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that depends, you know. And then there are some people that buy a franchise to make buying a job easy because, you know, franchises are set up to have systems that have been proven to work. And, you know, there's over 3,000 franchises in the U.S. I think pre-COVID there were 3,800. So, but there's also 300 companies that begin the franchising operations each year. And so to me, what I like about franchising is, one, I'm lazy, maybe a workaholic, but I'm lazy. I want to do things easy.
Yeah.
But, you know, I bought into brands that had been around for a while. I now have an appetite for the emerging brands. I like them because you can really, you know, capitalize on them. But the pandemic really helped me to scale my business. And I bought them in a lot of different ways. I, you know, took my 401k, did a Rob's rollover business solution. I did that, leveraged that against an SBA, bought my first 11, used the money from that to start buying up. And then I would actually go, one deal I did when I bought New Mexico was I bought the franchise license from the potential franchisee and then went back to the franchisor and renegotiated his contract to acquire all of his salons. And so I got discounts on both ends on two different transactions for one place to end up. So there's a lot of different ways. So you have to be an entrepreneur and a business person to help you. If you're not a business person, then by all means, you should be looking at franchises as a means of business. And the other thing is that when you start a business, you don't really have brand recognition. Whereas, you know, I mean, you probably got Supercuts there where you live.
Yeah.
I have Super 8s. You probably got, there's 2,000 Smart Styles in the U.S. So if you have a Walmart, you probably have a Smart Style, or 1 in 3, if you will. So I am a big advocate of franchising, especially for entrepreneurs that want to scale their business quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that when you are a mom and pop, and because you're having to work in your business instead of on your business.
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked in the business of a hair salon. Let me tell you what, when I went to franchise school, they had to retire the mannequin they gave me to cut the hair on, just so I'd appreciate what cutting hair was. It was so bad. I have no talent, I have no skill, I have no coordination to do it. I respect the people that do it. My mother was in the business,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so one of the problems when you scale your business, though, is cash becomes a problem. You hope it becomes a problem. You can
Right.
only put so much. We have multiple banks that we use. We have a lot of that is geography of where we want our people to take the money.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you don't want to have one bank, and they can only insure so much.
Right.
So you have to start diversifying where you're putting your money. And so I got to thinking about doing some other franchises in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
And in franchising, the big three: old people, young people, and pets. Those are tried and true. They, pretty recession resistant.
Right.
And my business is we're value hair salons. My inventory
Right.
doesn't go bad. My
Mm-hmm.
employees have to go through at least 1,600 to 2,000 hours. They have to be licensed by the state board.
Mm-hmm.
And two, everybody needs a haircut,
Right.
whether you're doing it at home, which means you can't go out, or you go get a value. So in recession, our business is just as good. It may be even a little bit better because people can't afford the higher price salons. So
But
that
you
was one
can,
of the things.
but as a consultant, or someone's looking to buy franchise or buy multi-unit or whatnot, to scale, there's definitely some ingredients that make one more attractive necessarily than another, right? And then
Right.
also personality and experience for the guy maybe who's going to be acquiring this is probably pretty important as well.
Yeah, and the process I got into franchise consulting. Number one, I own a consulting firm also. We go in and we actually have contracts with VA doing financial turnarounds, their business plan and strategic plan and stuff. So I like the consulting world, and I've done a lot of consulting, different GLG, et cetera. And that's what got me to Ukraine is consulting. But I was looking at different brands, and I had talked with probably 20 different brands. And I went back to my franchise consultant. I used a franchise consultant to get the Smart Styles.
Mm.
And so we've been, in touch over the years, and I'm going to call it Greg. Hey, I actually need you to consult with me. I was like, I'm tired of brick and mortar. I've got 47 landlords. I don't like landlords. I don't want any more landlords. I was like, and I don't want to work in the business, unless it's something I really, really enjoy. And I have no skills. So what's left? And he's like, well, why don't you be a franchise consultant? He said, you know
There
more
you go.
about it than most franchisors. You've
Right.
done it so many times. So was it 50 something franchises? He said, so just, you really should consider that.
Yeah.
You like consulting, you've talked to so many different franchises. And so anyway, that's how I got into franchise consulting. But I like the process. I mean, there's over 3,000 franchises. How do you pick a franchise? Well, there actually is a process to it. Number one is it is not for everybody. There are some people that should not be in business. They just don't have what it takes. And, there's those conversations that I have with some people. It's like, maybe now is not the right time for you to do it. And two, you don't want to put all your money into the business. You need capital. That's why a lot of people go out of business. They don't have capital,
Right.
sufficient capital. So, the process is to find out, number one, if a person should even have a conversation about franchising or about business ownership. And then the second conversation is if they are, then we have actually a tool called Zoracle that is a proprietary, it's a business builder profile. And what it does is, you through questions and stuff, it does an assessment, and it will then tell you what your tolerance level for business, what areas that might be you to be stronger in. And so that assessment really tells us a lot. And then I can take that tool and it will narrow down some industries and some, some franchises that might best suit these people. So,
Nice.
because some people should be in emerging brands, like I, I've failed so many times that I now know what not to do. I don't necessarily know what to do. That I love the emerging brands. Show me a new concept out there that we could scale
Yeah.
because you're going to save money.
Right.
It's going to be lesser to get into. You
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to get into McDonald's, but you can afford to get into this new franchisor that has 50 locations and they're trying to scale their business.
Right. Right. And then so you can navigate someone through that process to sort of eliminate or self-identify themselves as a candidate, and then yeah, with 3,000 plus concepts and 300 plus new coming on every year, um, there's where do you start? And so you have a process for that. And I know you talked financing, and I'll do my own little commercial here that we finance people for franchises all the time with SBA, and as you mentioned, Rob's, where someone can leverage their like a 401k or retirement plan um, to put it to use now without a tax hit versus letting it just kind of sit in the market over time. Anything else that's critically important on that as we wind
Well,
down?
well, if somebody is interested in looking at franchises, then what they lack is education,
Hmm.
and that's what I like to say that I provide is education.
Right.
Is that when you get that FDD, the franchise disclosure document,
Mm.
it is a huge document full of
Yeah.
legalese. You have two options. Talk to somebody that knows, hey, get to the meat,
Right.
or you pay $5,000 and have a lawyer review it with you, and they're going to red line it, and the franchisor is going to say, no, I'm sorry, but we're not going to do
Just run changing
that. So
that.
you spent $5,000. So
Yeah.
like the item 7, item 19, of
Yeah.
understanding where to look for the important stuff, so you can do
Hmm.
due diligence. But the main thing is get down to about 6 franchises that you look at, and then you're trying to narrow it down to 2 or 3 that you're actually going to get disclosed. You're going to talk to the franchisor. You're probably going to, 1 or 2, you're going to go discovery day and see what's comfortable to you and
Hmm.
where's a good fit for you.
Right. Right.
Because it can be overwhelming to the point where you just do nothing because you're
Yeah.
just inundated with information.
No, I agree. I agree. As someone who's looked at that route, at one point in my life, in between businesses, I was fascinated by that, and you definitely need someone, and a consultant particularly one who is super experienced like you, that not only is a business guy, entrepreneur, but someone who's owned 50 plus franchises in his career. You've seen a lot. That wisdom is invaluable. And if I recall, I mean, it doesn't even cost anything, and basically until you find a franchise. So for the
Yeah.
most part.
Well, yeah, actually, that's the beauty of it. It's kind of like real estate. The seller
Mhm.
pays the commission, and the
Yeah.
way it works is they're regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. So the Federal Trade Commission says that the franchisor cannot change the franchise fee to compensate a third party. So as I say, we offer our services for free, and the way I get compensated is that if I place somebody in a franchise, then we're compensated. And I have to be honest with you, it's all over the board as far as
Yeah.
what the compensation. I never know what the compensation is. Believe it or not, I
Yeah.
never look at it. Be quite honest with you, I talk to a lot of people, and my objective is see if I can educate them, and
Mhm.
and to see. I try to talk a lot of people out of.
Yeah.
They're wanting to take all their money and invest in this thing. I'm like,
Ugh.
you really don't want to do that right now.
That's right. That's right. And that's the voice of wisdom.
Yes.
And having somebody who is a servant leader, who is not needy, but is more concerned about leaving a positive legacy and operating from character and values. Because the last thing I would want to do as a neophyte walking into business with my life savings is to jump into some business that I had no shot, no reason to ever be involved with, number one, or number two, not having a shot of making it work. and potentially
Right.
losing my hard-earned financial future. But with proper guidance and direction, then you can mitigate all that, and
And
the
that's
sky's
why
the
I'm
limit.
such an advocate of franchising, is that
Yeah,
they help give you those tools
yeah,
that you're not going to get if you try your own business. And,
yeah.
I've started my own business and had success at them, but it wasn't, I didn't put everything into one business and like it either goes or I'm broke.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right, for sure. Well, Tony, it's hard to believe we're out of time.
Oh, wow.
This has been a lot of fun.
Well,
So
I appreciate it. It
yeah,
was
no,
fun.
I appreciate it. Ton of value, tons of fun. Tell our listeners if they are interested in the franchising idea and exploring and going a little deeper. How does somebody get up with you?
You can reach out to me on Tony at Franchise for Biz. That's franchise, the number four, and biz.com.
Tony at franchiseforbiz.com.
Right.
Awesome. We'll get that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So, Tony, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. You've added a ton of value today, and I've learned a lot myself. And what a career! And I'm going to dig back into servant leadership and Ken Blanchard. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, Paul, and I always have learned from you. And you're a very respected person and business person. And it's a pleasure to call you friend and co-business owner.
Thank you, Tony. Hey, gang, just winding down here today. Thanks for listening to the show. And as always, if you need capital to grow your business, you're looking to purchase commercial real estate or build a building or invest in commercial real estate, or you're looking to acquire a business or a competitor, or just need growth capital, we'd love to talk to you. We fund businesses all day long. Our mission is to help entrepreneurs win and to fund their businesses and fund their dreams so that they can make an impact in their community. Reach out to me today. Go to our website, click the button to schedule a 20-minute conversation, discovery call. We'll have a quick conversation, see if there's a need, see if there's a fit, and we can take it from there. The website is VPC, Victor Paul Charlie .capital. That's VPC .capital. All right, there's no .com on that. It's VPC.capital. As always, keep crushing it and hope to see you soon around here. Take care.